there, I'm Christina, and welcome to a new episode of Salty Critics Corner. Today we'll be doing a series of book recommendations, so if you're looking for something new for your reading list, stick with us. As some of you may know, August is Women in Translations Month. So what does that actually mean? Basically, we're going to be talking about women who have written novels in languages other than English. And there's this really amazing website, this really amazing charity actually, who tries to help women get translated into English and hopefully present their books to a wider audience. So what Women in Translation seeks to rectify is basically the imbalance in the world of literature. They want to promote women writers from across the world, across different walks of life and experiences. Now, they can be translated into English, they can be translated between different non-English languages, but the point is still that these are women who originally wrote their novel in a language other than English. So at the end of the day, it's about equal opportunities and it's about using our powers of communication to promote these women authors. Choosing these books was a real challenge. So please stick with us, and if you have any recommendations of your own, do leave them down below in the comment box. Let's get started. Our first book is a really interesting choice. So this author was actually born in Romania, so Claudia and I is our country of origin. And then she moved to Germany with her family, her being of German origin. And the book is The Appointment by Herta Muller. So just to give you an idea of the plot themes, this is set in the last years of Ceausescu's dictatorship. The protagonist is en route through Bucharest on an old tram that seems to take forever to reach his destination. So, of course, a bit of a metaphor there. She's been summoned by the secret police. She's actually a seamstress, and she's being accused of sewing marriage proposals in the clothes that she's making. So these clothes are bound for export. The idea is that she's trying to get a marriage proposal out of a foreigner, basically, so she can get out of the country. For this, she's been also arraigned on a charge of prostitution. She has an appointment and she is basically expected to explain herself. But the thing is, she's on this tram. The whole action takes place as she's en route to this interview. And you get this impression of her whole life in the span of what is probably 2 hours. So it's a pretty interesting novel. And this is actually a Nobel Prize winner. I think it got the Nobel in 2009. And it's a short novel, the character portraits are amazing, and it gives people from English-speaking countries a really good insight into some of these challenges. There are so many stereotypes of what living under a communist dictatorship was like, especially in Eastern Europe. And Herta Muller actually has first-hand experience of this. So definitely expand your horizons, whether they're political, whether they're like gender disparity. This is, as good as it gets. Our next book is Kang, the Vegetarian. And this is honestly one of my favorites. I bought this as a present for Claudia, and I actually read all of it before I gave it to her. So I don't know if any of you actually do that. You buy people books just so you can read it before you pass it on. But this book is pure art. And the story starts with what appeared to be like an ordinary couple, just a marriage that is slowly developing these issues. And, you can feel that they're falling apart and growing away. But then the woman suddenly decides she needs to be a vegetarian. This wish comes out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, and is incredibly compelling. She starts developing all these obsessions with food, and it really infiltrates every aspect of her life. So it's less about the plot necessarily, but it's more about the vibes. It's more about the mood. So this is, if you need a moody book for summer, this is definitely it. And of course, it explores the relationship between her and her husband. So actually, the husband is the narrator of the book. And this woman suddenly starting to take decisions of her own, take control of her life. Of course, her husband feels it almost as an attack on his own masculinity. It's definitely a good exploration also of Korean marriage beliefs, Korean marriage standards. And we definitely recommend it because it has this tragic, dreamlike quality about it. Pick it up. It's so short, you'll be done with it. Absolutely. And obviously it gives you a chance to sample a bit of Korean literature, which I think Kang represents wonderfully. Our next book is Olga Tokarczuk, and please, if we have any Polish watchers out there, I'm really sorry about this, but this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. This is actually our Romanian version, so luckily this author also won a Nobel Prize. I don't know, between me and Claudia, we always make a point of at least trying to read the yearly Nobel Prize winner, and to be fair, up to this day, it almost never fails to bring up a really good novel. But Drive Your Plow, this is technically a crime novel, which is really unusual for both Claudia and I to read, but it's a very interesting narrator. It's this elderly woman called Janina, and she lives in a Polish village in the mountains, and slowly, one by one, really important figures in the village start dying. But this is not your average Agatha Christie or anything like that. She's no Miss Marple. This is genuinely one of the best representation of sort of introverted narrators. You suspect a little bit that she might not be quite, all there, but at the same time, you get to experience her really wholesome relationship with a lot of the villagers, as well as this incredible connection to nature. I'm not going to spoil the book, but the connection to nature is really important. And as the plot unfolds and you learn more and more about who were the people who were killed, you slowly start to suspect that there might be like a slight fantastical element to it. Or is it just Janina being a bit of a weirdo, but lovable one, either way. The Memory Police, Yoko Ogawa. So this is quite a popular book on BookTok and Instagram and YouTube. I'll try not to, reiterate what everyone else has said. But just to give you an idea, this story is very reminiscent of Orwell's 1984. So if you like that kind of dystopian, alternate universe type of narration, this is a really good one. But again, it has this really feminine quality to it, and Yoko Ogawa is an exceptional writer. So the book actually follows a writer, and she is living on an island that is governed by the memory police. So the police acts almost as a force that makes people forget about the existence of just various objects, random objects around the house, like mugs or cups or, anything. And when people start forgetting about the existence of these objects, they call them disappearances. Whenever an object disappears, anyone who dares to save one of these, or anyone who is actually unable to forget and they only try to pretend, is in grave danger. So the memory police will come for them, will take them away, and nobody really knows what happens when people are taken away. Fundamentally, this is a story about what makes us human. Is it our experiences? Is it our upbringing? Is it our memories? And what happens when we lose these memories? So the themes that it touches upon are, again, really dreamlike, very melancholic. If you have maybe family that struggled with any type of dementia or Alzheimer, this might be like a really difficult novel to read. It almost makes you think about what happens when we grow old and we start forgetting just various aspects of our lives, and how human are we still if we don't remember any of our experiences. That is only one small bit. So again, this follows so many topics, and I feel like this is a very personal interpretation of it, but definitely this book starts conversations, and that's what a good book does, right? Our next recommendation is, again, a modern classic, Elena Ferrante, My Brilliant Friend. So this has also been made into a series by HBO, which is really good. So if you want to watch that, absolutely go for it. But it's, simply put, just the story of two young girls who grow up in a bad neighborhood of Napoli in Italy. It follows them throughout their lives. So basically starts out in the 50s and moves on as they grow into adults. And it explores a relationship, a female friendship, really, in such depth. I've never come across a novel that does this. So this is just the first part. I think there's 4 books in the series, at least in the English translations. And you get to meet such a panoply of characters and really delve into their lives. It brings the Napoli of the 60s to life in such a wonderful, complex way that really you feel like you're there. And honestly, if you've ever had like a close female friendship in your life, this book is really going to take you through every single stage of that, from this endless love that you have for your friends to anything negative like jealousy, like fear, like anxiety, watching other people living their lives and you trying to also put together a life of your own. So really, if you're looking to get all the feels, if you're looking for a beautiful Italian setting, this is such an excellent novel, and genuinely a novel for summer, I would say. This makes such a good read with like an iced coffee, just chilling in the sun if you have that option. So yeah, put it on your summer reading list. Finally, our last recommendation, and again, one of my personal favorites. I read this book when Svetlana Alexievich, who is a Belarusian writer, really came onto the scene because she basically won the Nobel Prize. So I think we have 3 Nobel Prize winners in today's recommendations. So Voices from Chernobyl is probably one of her most famous books. And it's really not necessarily a novel. So this is for those amongst you who lean more towards nonfiction. Technically, the Nobel Prize Committee described her writing as a polyphonic series of accounts. She interviews just normal people who are involved in very abnormal events, of course, like Chernobyl. And she puts together a narration based off of these accounts. But what comes through in her books is just the immense humanity of these people who have been through such extreme events. Again, if you want to actually watch this, there is an exceptional series called Chernobyl. I think it's also made by HBO or something like that. And it follows some of the accounts. It basically turns some of the accounts into characters. And it really gives people an idea of what actually happened at Chernobyl. It's such a legendary event. And many of us weren't even born when this happened. We don't really understand what the threat of nuclear annihilation basically meant to these people. But probably one of the most harrowing accounts is the first story, which is the story of the wife of one of the first responders. So at the point in time where nobody really knew what was going on, the party was trying to cover it up. They were trying to pretend like nothing serious happened. But this woman basically has to watch her husband decay from radiation poisoning in hospital. And just the immense love of this woman. Really, this book makes me so emotional. So absolutely, if you want something that leans a bit more towards nonfiction, but it's still an exceptional narration, Svetlana Alexievich. Voices from Chernobyl, War's Unwomanly Face, or Zinky Boys, every single novel of hers, I've absolutely devoured and would definitely recommend. And there you have it. Those are our 6 recommendations for Women in Translation Month. What did you think? Have you read any of these books? Did you enjoy them? Do you have any favorite female authors that don't write in English? What do you think? I'm gonna put the womenintranslation.org website up again and in the description box below. They also have their own really amazing reading list, so if you wanna read more about that, it'll be right there. You can donate to them, so again, support the cause. And really, the best thing we can all do is read more. Read more female authors, or just read more in general. I know we're all on the same page on this one. So yeah, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram, and really, at the end of the day, read more, stay salty, and we'll see you next time.